Seeing how much my parents struggled when I was younger, coming to a new country, it just made me realize like I have 10 times more resources than they ever did. So why wouldn't I take advantage of that? One of my biggest motivators was proving everybody who doubted me wrong. Initially, when I went to college and I was like, you know what, I want to do marketing, like this is what I want to do, I did get a lot of backlash. And that is really what drove me to being like, even though I'm not going to the best school in the world, even though I'm not doing what everybody else wants me to do, I can still be successful.
I have a shameless favor to ask.
Yes.
How are you today?
I am fantastic, rested, rejuvenated, inspired, all the wonderful things.
I love it. I saw all of your posts about coming back from the retreat. Looks like a really good time.
It was amazing. I'm just really excited about people asking, like, we were talking before we hit record about how some things just come naturally to some people.
Yeah.
And even when it comes naturally, when you ask them like about the craft or about the thing that comes easy, there's this tendency to be like, what, me? No, I don't know what I'm doing, And so that's kind of where I'm at with this whole, hey, can you teach us yoga online? So tomorrow's my first class and I'm so excited because I've only taught in person.
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
We'll see what happens. Yeah.
That's good. I want to share a story. And, when summer comes out, we try to get out of DC and we spend a couple of weeks in different places and my kids go to camp. And we were down in Florida and I think we just got back from the beach and it was like the kids were about to go to bed and somehow like my TikTok opened up and they were watching this creator and just like in belly stitches in laughs and they were just all over and they're like one more dad and this creator was talking about coconuts and she was doing an Desi accent in like the most respectful way and then she was talking in Punjabi and then trying to talk Hindi and she was just absolutely the funniest thing and in like a clean way because my kids are 9 and 3 and they're like, Dad, just one more of the coconut girl, one more of the coconut girl, one more of the gunde and the bandar. And we ultimately got into an argument because every one of her videos ended with something that sounded like bye or bog. We couldn't figure it out. And so we kept watching it. And I ultimately DM'd the creator and said, hey, your stuff is just so funny. My kids love it. And lo and behold, we have Anjali who is on the podcast today. So welcome, Anjali.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited. Thanks for the great intro.
Now, Anjali, I want to introduce you a little bit more. Like first, like my kids found you and I can't tell you how many times part of your view, like history is us. Like we're just watching the same stuff over and over. But, there's a lot behind your TikToks and you are just graduated from Temple. You have a history of where your parents moved here from India. And so we want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit more about yourself before we get into the substance of the episode.
Yeah, of course. So like you kind of mentioned, my parents came here from India in the 90s. So I am first gen and I'm the first in my family to attend college and to be born here. So really do all those things myself. I was born in Jersey and I grew up on food stamps for a little bit of my life because, my parents came here not knowing the language, not knowing the culture, and really having no foundation to build on. But eventually they were able to kind of build themselves up. And then we got our own Indian restaurant in Pennsylvania. So they've had that for a long time now. And I've done my time working there, which was also fun. And then I moved to college. I went to Temple in Philly where I was, primarily focused on things like marketing and social media. I ran a fan page for Post Malone for a couple of years and I grew it to about 80,000 followers over 3 years. I got to go to free concerts and shows, which was something I never expected, but I was very young, but I had a great time doing it. And it kind of solidified my passion for marketing, but also music. I make my own music on various platforms like Spotify, Apple Music. And I actually just went to LA to use Coke Studio. So I've had a lot of great opportunities, which I'm really grateful for. And since I've graduated, I've been really focused on my own TikTok. So I've been creating those comedy videos that your kids love, and I never expected it to go anywhere. But here I am 5 months later. I almost have 20,000 followers on TikTok, which is really exciting. I'm hoping to hit 100K by next year, fingers crossed. But social media, marketing, music, all these things I really love to do. So I'm enjoying it.
I really love that. And listeners know I so often fall back to this commencement address from Steve Jobs when he's talking to Stanford students. He talks about how nothing in his life, when you look forward, seemed like it connected. It didn't seem like it mattered. It didn't really have to do with one another. But looking back, if you connect the dots, there's all sorts of synergy, and there's all sorts of very serendipitous reasons why various skill sets, various people, various experiences sort of mesh together and create your own unique blend of awesome. And I love that that's what you're bringing to the table.
Oh, I love that. That's something that's honestly really inspirational, because you're right. Like when I do look back at it, I've been promoting my family's restaurant since 5th grade. I had a One Direction fan page in 7th grade. So I feel like it's something I've always done, and it's kind of all coming together.
You talk about it's coming together now, and people from the outside just think that you woke up one day, you fell out of bed, and you were funny, and you're having all this success. But you just mentioned that you started this like when you were in 7th grade.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, and building the foundations for this, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
Fifth.
5th grade,
5th grade.
5th grade.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Five comes before 7, right? Yeah. So that's even earlier.
I was really young. I got a cell phone really young, but it really helped me out in the long run. My parents were always working at the restaurant, so I feel like it was a good outlet for me, and that's kind of where I fell
Yeah.
into the whole of social media. But I ended up loving it, so here I am.
So many of us in our generation, right? We're told to focus on your grades, focus on getting a good job. The options were doctor, lawyer, engineer, dentist, something in healthcare, something in accounting, things like that. Tell us about your upbringing
Right.
so that we can tease out some lessons for the kids that we're trying to raise to help them sort of find their own way and express themselves in a way that is congruent with how they value things. And not only that, but more so where the world is going,
Right.
right? I think it's so important these days to remember that a lot of the careers that people are doing right now didn't exist 20 years ago.
hmm
And a lot of the careers that existed 20 years ago no longer exist,
Right.
right? For example, Microsoft just launched Copilot
Mhm.
yesterday, right? And I was watching a TikTok, again, from someone who was the founder of an AI company, and you literally can type out an outline and it'll make the slides for you
That's awesome.
with images, with bullets, everything, right?
Right.
And that didn't exist like when I was making slides 5 years ago.
Interesting. I wish I had that during my internship. It would have made my life easier.
Right.
But talking about kind of my life story, I feel like growing up, I was very good at like things like math, but I was also really creative. So I had a mix of both, and my mom kind of encouraged me to do whatever I want to do. Like she was always very open minded. She never pushed me towards you have to be a doctor, you have to be an engineer, you have to be a lawyer. It was always do what you're good at because you're going to do it for the rest of your life. So I think having that perspective in mind really pushed me towards doing what I love. And I did choir all throughout elementary school, middle school, high school. I was always just really creative. And, I was an all honors, all AP student in all of high school, and I was in the honors program in college. So things like academics were really important to me. And I worked 3 jobs in college. I worked for Coca-Cola, I worked for L'Oreal. Like I really worked hard to make sure that even though I am pursuing a creative field, nobody can tell me that I'm not good enough for it. So I think that's something I really work towards because, yeah, I might not be a doctor, I might not be a lawyer, I might not be an engineer, but that doesn't mean I can't have success. So I think one of my biggest motivators was proving everybody who doubted me wrong. And, initially when I went to college and I was like, you know what, I want to do marketing, like this is what I want to do, I did get a lot of backlash. And I think that is really what drove me to being like, even though I'm not going to the best school in the world, even though I'm not doing what everybody else wants me to do, I can still be successful. And last year, I lived in 3 different cities in 1 year. I lived in Rome for 6 months. I moved to New York for my internship. I moved back to Philly, and I feel like that is really a testament to really how hard I worked. And even though I wasn't doing, too much social media in college, the fact that I'm still able to do it now and make something out of it, I think goes to show that maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and maybe it's something I am good at. And you always just have to persevere, and there's nothing or no one that can tell you no if you continue to tell yourself yes.
That's
So good.
so powerful. I wanted to sort of get a little clarity on something because you said work hard,
Yes.
but then your face most people, when they say work hard, they're like doing this business and, they need like 50 units of Botox to chill out,
Yeah.
But when you said work hard, what I heard was I work with focus. Like you're locked in, as Dinesh says, you're locked in and you had a really clear purpose and goal. And it seemed to me like you were actually having a lot of fun with it.
I enjoy it. I really enjoy working. I think making an impact and building towards things is something I'm really passionate about, and that's why I put so much on my plate in college. But no, I really enjoy it, and I think seeing how much my parents struggled when I was younger, coming to a new country, it just made me realize, like, I have 10 times more resources than they ever did, so why wouldn't I take advantage of that and make something out of
Mm.
something they never had the chance to do? Like, I have the chance to go to college, they never got to go. I have the chance to, make a career, whether it be with a 9 to 5 or, a side endeavor like social media, and make it a real thing. So I think really what drives me to work hard is seeing what they did and going through what they did and I did and making something different out of it.
Yeah, it's so good. And one thing that's impressing me even more on this conversation, because I feel like I know the Anjali from social media, and then there's a totally different Anjali that we're interviewing. And you have the honor of being the youngest guest on today's show.
Yes.
You're 22, right?
Yes.
One thing that's striking me is that when I was 22, I I was so arrogant and egotistical that I thought I had it all figured out.
Mhm.
And that came across in a bit of sort of like a mixture of insecurity and arrogance. And I think a lot of people at 22 are like, I'm going to be a doctor. I've got this figured out. This is how I'm going to build my life. But what's coming through in today's interview is a level of maturity and a level of self-awareness, um, and a level of open-mindedness that I frankly don't see or didn't remember a lot of 22-year-olds have. And even more advanced in life, a lot of people don't have that that perspective. And this is a very selfish question. I know it's going to resonate with Seema, but I'm raising a daughter. I'm raising a 3-year-old.
Mhm.
Seema's raising a 10-year-old daughter. Is this something that you were just innately born with, or can you articulate or point to what in your upbringing allowed you to develop this level of confidence and humbleness at the same time? Because you're a quiet, confident, you're sure about yourself, but in a way that's open-minded and willing to try, and that allows you to embrace hard work, not ready to run from the discomfort
Right.
and looking for the easy way out.
I feel like when I was younger, I wasn't always confident, and I feel like there comes a time, when you're in your youth and when you're younger, that you do feel insecure about, voicing yourself, and, you're in a crowd of all these people at school and you feel like you're so little compared to them. And I always felt like that growing up. And I think one day I just woke up in high school, and I was like, you only get to live one time, who cares what people think? It doesn't matter what's going to happen in the end, because we're not all going to be here for the next 300, 400 years. Like, it does not matter. So I just woke up one day and I was like, I'm going to be a musician. So took out my phone, started making some Instagram videos in like 10th grade. And since then, I've still been making videos. So I think it's not something I was born with, I would say, but I think my environment that I was raised in has always been very loud and authentic, and I think that gave me, the comfortability to be like that myself. And I never showed it at school. I would always just be like that at home, but eventually I got to a point where I was like, why am I having, the quieter Anjali at school and around my friends and the loud Anjali with my family, when you could just, I don't know, be loud and be yourself all the time? I mean, that's who I truly am. So I think as I kind of grew into my shoes and I had new experiences like studying abroad or moving to college and meeting new people, I was able to kind of shift my identity to be okay with being myself. But then again, there does come a level of self-awareness where you have to realize you can't be narcissistic. You can't think you're the best person in the world, because then no one's going to like you. No one's going to want to work with you. And it's just unlikable to me as a person if anyone's like that. So why would I want to be like that? So I think these are just values that my mom kind of instilled in me early on. And I think seeing that both my parents are like that too. I mean, my dad, he's a business owner, but he doesn't, boast about it. He's very self-aware. He's very kind and humble. So I think having parents as examples really helps you kind of build that foundation. And I think that's where I got it from.
Your story really resonates with me because I was also very quiet and very shy, and I was really unsure of myself. And you sort of had this realization or life quake, if you will,
Right.
To kind of step into this cognition of dual identities and why not just meld them into one. And honestly, I know women in their 40s and 50s who still struggle with this, and understandably so, right? We're taught one way, but society really, in order for us to get what we want, we believe we have to be another way. And so there's this chameleoning of sorts that happens.
Right.
And I want you to pull that apart a little bit more. This cognition of why not just be the same version here and everywhere else.
Right.
What drove that? And because that's scary to a lot of people. Tell us about how you did it, why you did it, what was going on?
I think I just started to do it because, frankly, I just got, tired of feeling like people were walking all over me. I think when you're the quieter, more reserved type of person, it's so easy for, to be the yes man and to have like people take advantage of you. And I think I just got to a point where I was like, I don't want to be anyone's yes man in their story. I'm my own, person, and I can make my own decisions. So I think for me, having gone through all these Gunday and Banders, I decided to wake up one day and I was just like, I deserve to stick up for myself. I'm the only voice that can stick up for myself, so I'm going to. And, everyone's in control of themselves. You're in control of your mind, you're in control of your thoughts, you're in control of your actions. So if you want to make a change, all it takes is for you to convince yourself to make the change. So that's exactly what I did. I did my affirmations. I told myself that, I can be confident, I can be, willing to use my voice. And I feel like having just my own voice tell me that really allowed me to embody it. And I also think just having supportive friends around really helped my case. I mean, one of my, childhood friends, she's my best friend. She is always the one that was really loud and weird with me, and we always just had that kind of connection together. But I think going to college with her also really helped me come out of my shell and be okay with embracing my weirdness, because it wasn't just me who was doing it. There was somebody else that was doing it with me. So not having to do it alone, I think really helped me as well, because if it was just me and I was, with a group of people who I didn't necessarily resonate with, I think it would have been more awkward. And I think going off of that, I went to high school in, a predominantly Caucasian town. So I think I was a little more afraid to be myself, just because it's not the norm, to already be a person of color in this town, but also be loud and obnoxious and different compared to everybody else. So I think then again, going to college after that and going to a very diverse university kind of allowed me to meet like-minded people and just continue being who I am to my core.
Oh my goodness. So much wisdom. Are you sure you've got the wisdom of like 102-year-old in a 22-year-old's body?
I agree. And sometimes they take like kids to like a nursing homes to visit like the elderly patients, and like the benefits for the old people are like reduced loneliness and social isolation, improved mood and well-being, even like their thinking improves. I feel like that's happening for Seema and I on this podcast. Like you're giving us a sense of a renewed vigor and renewed invigoration. And a lot of times people in their 30s and 40s, let's pick someone who's 45. They'll be like, well, I'm 45, almost 50. They'll start looking for that and thinking that it's too late to start over. When in reality, if someone's 22 years old out of college and they work till 65, that's 43 years.
Right.
And half of 43 is another 22.
Right.
So you're not quite even halfway through your working life until you're like 44, 45 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And even then, the first half is spent learning, and the real compounding happens on the back half, where you're actually just doing and can build wealth and things like that. So we appreciate you sharing all of that stuff. I think it's all gold. But I have a question.
Yes.
Music, marketing, working in the restaurant, all that sounds really amazing, right? Why comedy on TikTok? Wouldn't people, or haven't people said like you're wasting your time? Shouldn't you be working in a marketing agency in New York? We get you want to be creative. Why TikTok? Why comedy? And what do you say to the scores of people that look at me and Seema and we're like, you're wasting your time on social media? Or I don't have time for social media. Like, I've got a real job. I make $200,000 a year.
Well,
social media is for kids. I
think it's really easy to do social media alongside your job. I think there's things like pre-recording videos or just having a little bit of time throughout the day, and you can easily do it. I think for me, so I did work at L'Oreal last summer in New York, and that was my first corporate experience working a 9 to 5 or 9 to 11. But I think being there, I realized, okay, I really do like marketing, but I'm not sure if I really want to be stuck in a cubicle for the rest of my life. I mean, don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, I love contributing to a team. I love the actual work that goes into it, but I think my passions are not only just that. My passions include things like music and things like making my videos. And at the same time, I know it's a little confusing for people that I am in a comedy niche when, I've been talking about music my whole life and, doing all these things, but I think when I've experimented in the past and tried with my music, it doesn't perform as well as my like just regular personality TikToks do. So I think having some sort of balance between my music, but also showing people who I am to my core, I think allows me to build my audience. And yeah, I might not make as much money as I could in a 9 to 5, but at the end of the day, like I'm having such a great time and it's all a building process. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to be doing next year, but that doesn't really bother me because I feel like I'll figure it out. It'll all work out in the end, and I have faith and confidence that the universe is leading me to the path I need to be on. And um, it might not make sense now, but I think in a couple of years it will. So I think just embracing the unknown and not taking criticism or feedback from people, because at the end of the day you can have all the money in the world and not be happy, but if you're doing something you
Mhm.
love, the money will come eventually. And I don't think money is something that should drive your passion. I think your passion is what should drive your passion. So that is
Mm.
kind of how I feel about it.
I heard something last week and it just struck me because of the verbiage. It said, the universe is actively contriving to give you your highest successes.
Yes.
And I thought that was so powerful because you hear different versions of this, right? Like, oh, if you're in flow state, or like the universe is abundant or whatever. But the way these words kind of came together, right? Actively contriving
Right.
to get you to your highest
Right.
successes, I thought was just incredible.
Yeah.
And what I love about what you shared was that when the more control you relinquish in terms of how am I going to get there? What am I going to do? Exactly what are the steps? I know for me, that's something that I'm actively dismantling in my own brain. Is I need the steps. I need the algorithm. Like step 1, this is what I do. And
Mhm.
step 2, this is what I do. But you don't have that. And I think that actually creates more opportunity, more ease, more abundance. Um, because now you're not trying to siphon down all the ways that opportunity might find you. So I think that's just beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like maybe in the beginning, when I was kind of new to all this, I was trying to have it be kind of, everything pen on paper. I need this done by this. But now I've realized, like, you don't have control over those things. You can only control what you do, and whatever else is meant to find you is going to find you. And I am very spiritual, so I think believing in that kind of also motivates me to keep going, because I understand that things like how many followers I have in the next 4 months, that's not in my control. Either I'll do well or I won't do well. I mean, it's not, I
Hmm.
can't control that. I can't change that. So it's just a part of life, part of the
Hmm.
process.
Yeah. You know, I want to be a skeptical for just a second, where
Okay.
both of the comments that you both said sounds like very cliche advice. Well, universe will contrive for you. Sounds like things we've heard before.
Hmm.
But I can tell you, there's a lot of people listening to this who will be like, "Yeah, that sounds great, but it's not. It's not. That doesn't apply to me, or it won't work for me, or
Right.
things like that." Um, and I am actually in your camp. I believe that. So I'm going to share how this actually works so people can understand
Yes.
the benefits of putting yourself out there.
Hmm.
And it actually is between Anjali and me. So, you know, we explained earlier that my kids love watching your TikTok. Everyone can follow, like, hey, we have this inspiring podcast for South Asians. Logically, it makes sense. Anjali would come onto it. But unlike our other guests, Anjali doesn't have a website, a business, or a book or something that we can draw from to prepare for the podcast. So I reached out to Anjali and said, "Hey, tell me about yourself so we can generate, the episode outline and things like that." And as a result, Anjali saw one of my stories where I had a call in the morning at like 5 a.m. for a hearing in Germany with Munich. And I said, thanks to Zoom, I can do this and be here for soccer practice. Otherwise, I'd be flying back and forth in Germany, like on a boomerang. And so Anjali reached out and said, "Do you work for Zoom?" And it turned out that she is applying for a job at Zoom and asked me if I knew someone at Zoom that I could send her resume, right? And the reason I shared the story is, think about a job, a career opportunity coming together simply because of a connection through the internet or through the podcast or things like that. And this has happened over and over again. So, whatever you do, if you think that you can get to where you want to go by being in your house or being in your office, I think the world has changed. And I think
Mm-hmm.
real connections and I think real opportunities are made outside of your office, outside of your hospital, outside of your practice, outside of your office, and
Mm,
certainly outside of your house. What do you guys think?
mm.
I mean, do you guys have similar stories to share from your experiences of being online?
So I feel like I've been connected with a lot of really cool people just by social media. I think in college, something that was really stressed to me was you have to network with people, you have to meet them in person, like you have to build a real connection. But I think it's possible to build a real connection over things like Zoom and online because at the end of the day, you're both kind of benefiting something from each other. And, I've had the chance to talk to like the CMO of Tarte Cosmetics or really network with people at the Coca-Cola company or really like more professional endeavors. And because of that, I think it's given me a lot of experience in like negotiating things like brand partnerships, which I'm starting to do, and like understanding kind of how the professional scene looks. So I think networking is definitely one of the biggest tools you could have. And whether it be in person or online, it has just as much of an impact.
Mm.
Agreed. I think, for me, this podcast wouldn't exist if I hadn't gotten on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
right? Dinesh and I met when we were meant to meet and, somewhere before or during the pandemic. And
Mm-hmm.
um, our friendship really grew because we both had time
Mm-hmm.
to work on that friendship
Mm-hmm.
together. And this podcast idea was birthed. Same thing for how I decided to become, a certified coach or publish my book, like all of these incredible things. If you had asked me or told me in my 20s or right after I graduated dental school, hey, these are all the things that you will be doing, I would have not believed you at all.
Mm-hmm.
In the slightest. There's just no way. And even to the point, Dinesh, you were talking and it reminded me, we've had 2 guests on the Happy and Human podcast um, that one is actually, I don't know if it's public news yet, so I'm going to be careful here, but like one is moving cities. And it was so cool to be able to say through Instagram, hey, person over here is moving to where you are at, person over here, connect with each other. Here's, find a friend, find a comfortable, familiar face in a brand new city. I think that really opens us up to be our best selves and be more comfortable, even when the environment is new. So I could not agree more with you, Dinesh.
Yeah. And, if I could share one more story, it's not only just impacting my professional life or Anjali's professional life or our lives, but I'll give you an example. Last weekend, 2 weekends ago, we were in Kansas City
Mm-hmm.
visiting my in laws. And we went to the Chiefs game. They were playing the Bengals. And you know who we hung out with?
Cool.
Tejal Patel's husband and kids. They were
Oh,
also
how funny.
at the Chiefs game, and that entire connection came about because of through KMAC having Tejal on the podcast, and I've been talking to Chirag, and we're now friends, and our sons are friends now, right? And they actually made a bet that if the Chiefs won, they would come visit us first in DC, and if the Bengals won, we would go to just outside of Philadelphia in Jersey. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and now what we know to do is we have to go because the Bengals lost, the Chiefs won, and we're going to go to Anjali's restaurant in
Yes, we can. It's not too
Philadelphia.
far outside of Jersey.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. So cool. And truly the friendships and all that's wonderful. The opportunities for personal growth, all that's great. But I think too, people underestimate the power of what a single post can do, a single share of an idea. I mean, Anjali, I'm sure you've had similar experiences where your craft makes something inside someone that lay dormant or lay hiding kind of stir.
Mm-hmm.
They look at you and they think, wow, she's kind of inspiring me to go out and do something else. Or maybe it just makes them feel seen, right? Maybe they're not inspired to do any differently,
Mm-hmm.
but they feel seen, they feel validated.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Dinesh and I have had those experiences with things that we've either posted on our own social medias or podcasts that we've dropped. It's so humbling to really see just how powerful that mode of communication and connection can be when you're making someone feel like they matter.
I always get a lot of comments kind of voicing that. There people are always telling me like, hey, I'm from India, I'm from Pakistan. Like, I really love that, you're putting a voice out there for brown girls. And I feel like that makes me feel really fulfilled and happy because, people in like Pakistan and India, I wouldn't say they have access to the same resources that we do. So I think, having a voice for them to show them that, okay, it's okay to do something that's not traditional, and maybe it's something you don't see all the time where you're from, but it's possible and it's out there is really inspiring. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so true. As we're chatting here, I got a text message from someone that says, I follow your account on Instagram and really appreciate your insights and advice. Haha, it's like you're mentoring me from afar. It really does make a
It goes a
difference.
long
But
way.
it does. But we're admittedly only giving one side of social media, right? We're talking about all the positives. And like anything in life, like money, like food, like French fries, there's another side, and there's a dark side, and there's is a side that everyone is you know fully aware of. And I think, Anjali, you do a good job because you talk about the gunde and the bandar, right?
I do.
And we want you to tell us, what's the deal with the gunde, what's the deal with the bandar, and why are you after them, why are they after you, and why are you yelling at them in Punjabi?
They deserve to be yelled at. I mean, they're after me.
Who's they?
Who's they? And also because there are some people who may not know what those words mean. So
Yes.
enlighten
Yes.
us.
Okay. So basically, a gunda is, I guess, essentially a criminal if you really want to take it literally.
Yeah.
But I call, all my haters or, weird people in my DMs that are saying strange things gunde. And I always say there's gunde after me because they're just, they're out to get me. And whether it be with negative comments or just strange things they say, I think I just make kind of a joke out of what they say to me, whether it be, weird pickup lines or just asking me, to fly to different parts of the world and meet them for a day. And I'm just like, okay, there's a good day after me. But I think I've transitioned it into more so there's a good day after me in every aspect. So I think when I was in school, if my professor like said something that would, piss me off, I'd just be like, you're a gunda. Like you're just after me. Like, like just stop it. So I think it's just kind of turned into something where it's like, anybody and everything can be a gunda. Like I call flies gunde because they're out to bite me. Like anything can be a gunda. So I think that's kind of where I go with that. And I think gunde and bandar is kind of interchangeable. So bandar is like a monkey, but I treat it more like crazy, as I would describe it. So I would say, anything that can be a gunda can also be a bandar. But it's just like funny wordplay, and I think it's just so unexpected for people. I don't know how I came up with that. I think randomly I was just triggered one day that we used to have a playground in my backyard, and I came back from school and it was just gone. So I just made up this whole story about how there was Gunde after me and they stole it. And that was my first video that did well on TikTok.
That's so funny. My brother-in-law uses that too, monkey analogy,
Yes.
but he says it in Gujarati. But yeah, it's funny how you've kind of tied those things together. And now I have in my head a very cute monkey that like turns savage and is like got this, criminal outfit on. I don't know.
Right.
I can't really describe it.
I feel like I try to build like kind of a sense of urgency while I talk about it because it really feels like a threatening life situation. Like there are Gunde after me, guys. Like we gotta go. We gotta run.
Yeah. Speaking of going, where are you going? I know you have some ideas that may or may not be ready for you to share here, and
Yeah.
I can tell you from what I've heard that you've got some big ideas, some big aspirations, and potentially could really change a lot of things. So tell me, where are you going from here? What is the urgency, and especially for someone who's so early in their career, to have such urgency for making a change and for going places. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so I have a couple endeavors that I'm really passionate about. Obviously, number one being music. I do have a new song coming out hopefully by the end of October. I'm filming my music video soon, but this song I recorded at Coke Studios in LA, so it's definitely produced a lot better than my other stuff that I just do on my own. So I'm excited for everybody to hear that. And then I've been kind of brainstorming other kind of business ventures I can go into. I definitely think I want to release some merch. I know I have some fun catchphrases like "Gunde" and "Bye," so I think I could do something with that as well. And then I've also been considering, other, Indian American niche ideas, whether it be things like building out my own beverage brand or building places for, people to come meet each other, whether it be like, a Gunday dating day or something. I don't know. I think that could be
So
fun.
all the people who show up are going to be gundas?
Yeah. And it would just be, that'd be a really good content day. I feel like it would just be like, here's Gunda number 1, here's Gunda number
Speed Gunda dating.
Speed Gunda
I think
dating.
you got to do an app called Gunda dating or something
Gunda
like
dating.
Gundas and Chai or something. I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah.
Actually a good idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think about all these things, and I just gotta keep fleshing out the ideas, and we'll see if any of them come to life, and I hope they do, so we'll see.
Gundas and Gatia.
Gundas.
Sorry. I'm just going. I'm on the train.
I love it. I love it.
I'll come to you guys for ideas when it comes time to actually make the thing.
Gosh. It is funny because I feel like at certain times in everyone's marriage, you wind up feeling like the other person is the gunda, and they feel like you totally have to undermine them.
It'll be
So
like a
I just think it's fun.
the Gunda
Yeah.
support forum.
Yeah.
You can make the icon like a really cute monkey.
Yeah.
Like an unseemly little. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I have a shameless favor to ask.
Yes.
I need you to do a shout out to my son Jayan and daughter Sanvi in pure Anjali form.
You said it's Jane and Sanvi?
Yeah.
Okay. Shout out to Jane and Sanvi. You guys are my favorite bonders in Gunday. I'm gonna get you guys all the coconuts you want in the world. I'm gonna send it to your house, and you guys can send me a video back and let me know how it is. Bye!
There it is. There it is. I love it. Oh man. Anjali, this was so much fun. We're so glad to have you here. So Anjali, you've listened to the show. Seema and I go back and forth on a couple of questions, and it's a fun way to end the episode. So what do you say? You ready for a wrap-up segment?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Awesome. Or we live in a world of instant gratification. What is something from your life related to TikTok, related to, the upbringing or the content of our show? What is something that that you can share with our audience that if everyone implements it today, they can undoubtedly change their life?
The life that I've learned is don't be afraid to do something different. Pick up the phone, make the video, pick up whatever your passion is, and don't be afraid to try it, because no matter what you try, even if you don't succeed, at least you can say you tried. So for me, I picked up my phone, I made my TikTok videos, and I didn't know I was going to be successful, but I'm making somewhat of an impact. So don't be afraid to take the first step. Pick up the phone and just do it. Who cares what people think? You only live once.
So good. And you have made Jane and Sanvi's day, I know for sure. As soon as they hear this, their lives forever will be changed in the most profound ways.
I really do owe them a coconut.
Yeah, I can't wait for them to come home from school and I'll play. They'll be like, "What, Dad? You know famous people?"
You're more than the white beard.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Okay, so Anjali, you know this, but for listeners who are tuning in for the first time, we play a game on the show called Ask It Forward. So at the end of the show, we have this tradition of asking a question of the guest that's on the show right now that was left by the previous guest. The previous guest did not know who they would be asking the question to. So, Anjali,
yes,
we have for you a question by Selena Shah, who is the founder of Desi Daughters. What is something you're interested in or passionate about that's unrelated to the work that you're doing right now in the world?
Something I'm passionate about is painting. I love to paint. I have been painting things like Marvel characters or different kind of music backgrounds for my entire life. So I think that kind of plays hand in hand with my creativity. I don't really talk about it or post it anywhere, but I should. I definitely will going forward. But it's something that kind of gives me, a therapeutic escape. And I feel like I can sit down for like 6 to 8 hours, paint whatever I want, have no stress in the world. Nobody's watching me. I'm just doing it to do it. So I think that's something I really enjoy. And I also really enjoy watching documentaries on like history, which I know is super weird, but I'm really into learning more about kind of what built society today and what, how things are now versus how they used to be. And I also really love watching documentaries on aliens and outer galactic things.
Out of this world, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You really do have a multi-portfolio career, or portfolio career, I guess is what it's called, multi-talented. It's incredible. That was now I feel like I really want to see a painting of yours?
I'll show you. I'll send you guys a picture after. I just painted a Captain America painting. I'm a huge Marvel nerd, so I have all this painted. Yeah.
So it's your turn. You get to ask a question of the next guest.
Okay. Question is gonna be: you had to give yourself, your younger self, considering what you know now, what would you have said?
So good. And we're all filled with wisdom from our lives. And I think it's important to reflect on that, because I think it also highlights for you how far you've come. It's not just about giving the wisdom to somebody else, but recognizing what you're capable of and what you've come through, and what you still have inside of you by way of potential. Anjali, that was a great question. We're excited to see who gets it and what their answer is. But one of the ways we try to thank people for coming on to the show is by giving them the opportunity to share a cause that is near and dear to their heart, so we can amplify that cause, but also make a contribution on behalf of you and the time that you took to spend with us. So we want to give you an opportunity to share with us a cause that we, Seema and I, will make a contribution to, and also let our audience know about it.
There's a charity based in India called Educate Girls, and it basically provides resources and allocations to young females who don't have access to the same resources that we have. I think this would be a great charity to donate to, considering that my whole entire social presence is built around kind of giving a voice to those who are afraid to use it or don't feel like they have enough confidence and power to use it. So I think allowing younger females in more rural areas to have access to things like education will allow them to build their confidence and allow them to kind of venture out and find other prospects that they might be interested in, whether it be social media or something creative. But I think just getting a foundation and starting somewhere is really important. So I think Educate Girls is definitely a great organization to donate to and be part of.
So
Perfect.
amazing. Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So Anjali, you have, blown our minds, right? You, with the comedy and the music and the TikToking and the marketing and apparently the painting now. I know our listeners are going to be clamoring to know how they can connect with you, what social media platforms to do that on. Tell us, how they can do that.
Platforms on every single social media. So you can find me on Instagram at Anjali Pop, at TikTok at Anjali Pop, and then also YouTube is the same at Anjali Pop. All those platforms are open. My DMs are open. Anybody can message